Good morning. Today is Wednesday, April 29, and we are continuing with the second of 5 skills that we're covering for polynomials, which will make up a test once we average the scores. This particular skill is fairly simple, not quite as simple as the first skill we did, which was basically identifying terms for polynomials. In this case, we're adding and subtracting polynomials, so that's what you will be able to do. There are a few rules you need to remember. So the most important one is that like terms are terms that have the same variables raised to the same powers. Okay, so this becomes a grouping thing, as you will see. So to add like terms, add their coefficients. So what do we mean by that? Well, here is a term, a variable that is called x, and you'll notice that that's the same as 1x. Now that's telling you a slightly different thing. It's saying that anytime you have a variable without a number in front of it, it's assumed that there's 1 there. But my point being up here is when you're adding their coefficients, if you've got, let's say, 2x plus x, that's 2x plus 1x, and so you would have 3x's. So to add like terms, add their coefficients. And always, whenever you don't see a coefficient in front of a variable, it's assumed that that coefficient is 1. Okay? All right. You may want to go back to using a plastic sheet covering a piece of paper to do your work. We are back where we're starting to add and subtract positive and negative numbers, and yes, you may be able to do that in your head quite well, but when it starts to get snarled up and you start to make mistakes, this is the perfect medium. Again, you can write on it with a dry erase marker like this Expo, and you can erase anything that you've completed and go on to the next thing, and so you have a reusable sheet of paper. Use it, use it, use it. All right, we're going to look at our first example here. You're going to add the following. We have 2 binomials that we're adding together. So notice where the red addition sign is. That's the operation of adding. The signs inside the binomial really are positive and negative indicators. So you can tell that this is not really plus 7, or at least you should be able to know that. It's actually positive 7, and this is positive 9. And then over here, the 6g, where you don't see any plus or minus in front of it, it's assumed to be plus or positive 6g. And this number is just a lone g by itself. It's assumed it's a positive 1. So positive 1g. So we're going to add them. So again, I've rewritten the 2 polynomials with a plus sign in red in the middle because we're adding the 2 binomials together. Then we're going to group like terms. So what we're doing here is we've got 6g over here in the first binomial, but there's a 7 in with it. You want to get that out, and you want to get the g, the one lone g you see over in the second binomial, and you want to put it together with the 6g. So this g moves into the second position, and the 7 over here in the first binomial and the line above, it's going to be moved down to the second binomial in the line below. So you can see what's happening here. We're just trying to get the likes together. So this changes to 6g plus, and notice I changed this to 1g because it's a lone g, it means it's 1g. And then I added that to, and then this is 7 plus 9. So now that we've grouped them, we're going to combine like terms and simplify. So 6g's plus 1g is 7g, and 7 plus 9 is 16. And we are simplified. That is our answer. Okay? Many of you will think this is easy. It is easy to start with, but it's also, it gets more difficult when we start to deal with multiple powers. Here we only have linear power, power of 1, but you'll get cubes and squares and whatever out there for powers, and you also may have multiple different variables. So you want to be able to group those together, and you're going to follow these same general rules. Okay? All right. So let's look at our last page, and obviously this is going quite fast, but this time we're going to look at subtraction. So we want to subtract 6u plus 3, and here it is being subtracted from 2u plus 2. Okay? So I just brought that down. You're writing the subtraction problem, and I wrote it right here. Okay, so now we want to rewrite this problem up here as an addition problem. So we want this to change from subtraction to addition, which I did here. And the way I did that was, of course, this is whenever you're assuming really that there's a -1 in front of 2u plus 2. So that's multiplying -1 times 2u makes -2u when you want this to be positive, and -1 times 2 is -2. So you're rewriting this as 6u plus 3 plus, and then in parentheses, -2u minus 2. So now we have two binomials. We have the subtraction operation embedded into the polynomials now, but we need to get like terms together. So we're going to combine like terms. So I'm going to leave the 6u, here it is down here. I'm going to remove the 3, and I'm going to put it into the second binomial. And I'm going to take the -2u, because it has a u associated with it, and I'm going to move it down into the second term for the first binomial. So I'll have 6u plus a -2u, and I will be adding that to 3, which I moved down here, minus 2. Okay, so I now have like terms grouped together. So it might be better to say group like terms. It's probably the better wording here. So I'm going to change this to group like terms. Now we're going to simplify. So I've got these two like terms. I've got this positive negative going. That's really -2u. Positive times a negative is a negative. And then I have 3 minus 2. That really just simplifies to 3 minus 2. So let's finish our simplification. 6u's minus 2u's leaves you with 4u's, or 4u. And 3 minus 2 leaves you with 1. So that's your answer to the subtraction of this polynomial from this polynomial. Okay, so that's basically it. Make sure that, again, you take your time, you use your paper. Please use a calculator if you aren't sure about positives and negatives. Particularly when you start making errors, start using this. Okay? All right. So that's it for today. Go ahead and work on IXL Skill K2. Make sure this is Algebra 2 IXL Skill K2. The only reason I say that is because I have a student in another class who was dutifully going through her skills, and I wasn't getting any, there was no registration that she'd done anything in the subject that she was in, and it turns out that she was in the wrong subject entirely. She wasn't paying attention. In this case, A2 is the subcategory that you're in. If you were in geometry, there would be a G here. If you've got a number like 2, 3, 4, that means you're in first or second grade math, third grade math, fourth grade math, that kind of thing. So be very careful, because it's easy to kind of fool yourself, because these letters keep getting repeated for different skills in the different math groupings. So word to the wise. But most of you are okay, and if I've been putting scores in for you, that tells you that you were in the right spot. All right. Thank you very much. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye now.